And we are live. So, welcome everybody to our Tuesday morning Gun Channels coaching show where Clover Tech and I get together and talk about what it's like to make content and answer questions, talk about topics. So, Clover's joining us from Texas. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, good to be here.
We do this live, so people that join us live, feel free to ask questions or be part of the conversation. That's what it's all about. We've been doing this now for a while. Just to see an opportunity to talk about stuff, to focus on the creation of content. So a couple weeks ago now, had some ideas that came up in the conversation as we were chatting, and that's where today's topic comes from. Is vertical short content the future? So I don't know. Is this something you have a big opinion on, little opinion on, no opinion, lots of opinion? How does this one fit in your perception of all this stuff?
I think it just depends on. I think first of all, I think age demographic makes a big difference in formulating the opinion on this. But I think also depending on what types of content you consume, also can weigh in. So I don't know that there's a simple answer to that question. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of things. For me, it depends.
Yeah, and I would say when you started that with the kids or whatever, the youth,
You,
I think that used to be the way it was. They were the initial adopters of the vertical, but now, I mean, everybody has a phone, and if you're able to look at YouTube on the phone, some people are still making that realization that it's a thing. But you might not prefer it. It might not be what
yeah.
you do to
Well,
relax or whatever, right? Spend some time. But
I
if
don't.
you're driving around and you need to know if that's the right muffler attachment for the thing, most people I think are comfortable to jump over to a YouTube video.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I think I'm defaulting to your second part of that. Kind of just depends. If you're looking at it on a phone, well, you're getting vertical, and
Well,
you're
I'm
looking at
not real
smaller
sure.
apps.
I'm not real sure the first people to do vertical was inept boomers or boomers that were inept at tech. How many times have we seen people
Yeah, doing it
that,
wrong.
that that don't know how to film, things that should be filming landscape, but for whatever reason, is filming, they don't turn their phone. I can't tell you the number of times I even run into that nowadays. I'll have a guest for the podcast and they'll log in and their phone's up and down. And I'm like, uh, can you flip your phone for me so that it fills the screen properly? You're all tiny. And so they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So people just don't think about it, and I think that part of it, um, and it's really weird because for how long have we had cameras, right, in its landscape? So for how long are you used to it being widescreen or it being horizontal or it being landscape? But I think with phones and especially having like the selfie and capability in your pocket, and most people use a phone up and down, and they've always used a phone up and down. Our ears, right? Your ear is above your mouth, so it's up and down. Um, so by using that way, and people just real quickly getting a video or doing something like that, I think it lends itself to maybe ease of use. It was accidental for a lot of boomer folks, and then it got, or maybe they didn't even realize they could turn the phone and film, and then I think that just caught on as because I hate to say it, but society at large is lazy, and it's sad to say, "Are you so lazy you can't flip a phone?" But I think the short answer to that, and the overall generalization of that is yes, people are too lazy to flip a phone.
I wish I'd taken notes. You had a bunch of different things there. I don't know, too lazy or just not even aware. I think for a lot of the people you're talking about, at the original,
Yeah, the OGs just
as
weren't
people,
aware. Yeah.
we went from phones that were attached to walls to mobile phones. So people that are the age you're talking about were accustomed to carrying around a phone. But then we had the internet separately, came from kind of like cable, probably for most people's interpretation. Uh, internet is probably a development of cable TV, because a lot of people, it came literally with your cable TV. So then your phone becomes a smartphone, and then your phone has internet. At least I think that's the majority of people went that way. Technically, you could have done a different order, but I think that's part of it too. Is that people are used to a phone being a phone, and they're used to a thing being a thing. But now, well, for example, this talking head video, the video where the influencer is standing there doing something, talking about something, the vertical lends itself to that format of look at me and look what I'm doing, and not so much, the background matters, but it's because of where, the background is the location where I'm at. So I could see that just being a um, kind of an evolution from multiple angles. So I guess the vertical, I think, is as much from the phone getting the internet, and then for some, I guess what I was getting at is some of us are adapting to that. Some of us are thinking, oh, now the internet is on the phone. But then think of all those people that are growing up and they were given a phone as their pacifier. To them, the internet is up and down. And then you can also look at it on your TV, because they never sat down with a laptop and got comfortable with the internet that way. And then the internet's also on their phone. The internet is just a thing.
I mean,
And
TVs are landscape, but I mean, maybe because the scroll is up and down,
no, I
they
know
look
that's
at
what I'm
it
saying though,
differently.
but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that if you're just not coming from it to the vertical is new, the vertical is just one of them, then horizontal is just one of them. Horizontal isn't the place, and vertical is new. Vertical might even be the first for them, or at least they see them as joint. Like, they don't see a difference. They
Well, I
just
think,
see two different things.
and I think there's another tech aspect to this too. And we're for those that are just joining, we're kind of talking about the origins and how vertical kind of came about, and just spitballing that. But for the longest time we had, you've got so many aspect ratios now, right? Like you use IG for example is a 1-to-1 ratio. It's a square, and a lot of things use a square now. But for the longest time we had 4-3. And who remembers the black bars at the top and the bottom, letter box, right? And you would get that VHS tape, whatever it might be, and you had the black bars top and bottom, and
So
why?
4:3
Because it
is
was
a widescreen essentially.
4-3 is a standard screen.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you got 4-3. That's the old school TVs, right? The old school screens. Well, 4 inches to 3 inches, let's say, right? Right. It's not quite square. It's not a 1-to-1, but it's close, right? And so I think what happened is, like before, when you think about it, before, if you had a human, most humans are vertical. We stand vertical. So to get the whole human in the shot, you either had to back up, use a wide angle lens, or you had to back up, or you had to turn the camera, because the 4-3 ratio, you turn the camera where that 4 is up and down instead of side to side, and you can get a little more of that human in the shot. It's what they called portrait mode back in
Mhm.
the day. Well, they still do. So with technology, as technology advanced and we started seeing TVs, screens, other things that used a 16 by 9 resolution, 16 to 9 resolution, 16 inches to 9 inches, right? Um, and especially with phones where that it's actually 9 to 16, meaning that it's inherently vertical because it's on that phone. It makes it just much more conducive to taking pictures and video of humans, of other humans, right? Because it's innate, it's inherently already up and down, and with that ratio, it becomes way taller than wider, which is kind of like, again, the profile of most humans, right? So I think that there's some intuitive stuff there that deals with it, and then of course we led into the tech, right? I watch a lot of things on TV, old shows and different things, and you even see it in cinematography effects. I watched the new Ant-Man movie, for example, the other night, and depending on, you could tell they used different cameras and stuff for that. It was really weird. It had to have been intentional, but I kept getting bars at the top and the bottom occasionally, at the top and the bottom of the screen, which give it a more letterbox, OG, old school feel. But those bars weren't always the same width, those black bars, right? So the screen was like stretched and squished in certain parts of the movie. And my wife didn't even pick up on it, but I did. I'm like, that's weird that it jumps back and forth. It's not there all the time. Like if you watch an old movie on a new TV, you got black bars on the side, or if you're watching a YouTube video that somebody shoots in vertical, right? You've got those bars basically on either side. Well, that's opposite from old school days where you had bars top and bottom, and it was I just felt it really weird that this movie, the size of those on the top and bottom would change, and I'm like, it kind of leads into this conversation a little bit, or leans into this conversation a little bit. Like, at the end of the day, does it matter one way or the no or the other? And I don't know, except for in very specific circumstances. I don't know if it does, and that's kind of why I led off in that way.
So, right on. I think that Domo is saying something to the same area that you're talking about. He says, I
Yeah.
find it easier to hold my phone with one hand vertical. I guess it's the default hold. So that's with a smartphone. Um, I guess phone influence came from those flip phones when we first got cameras and phones that you could send. And that was also an up and down, but different ratio. I don't remember all the different ratios, but a little bit more square than rectangle. Um, but when you think about a camcorder and every other kind of video recorder that we've ever had before the phones or dedicated films things now, they're horizontal because they know they're going either to a movie theater or television. So by nature, you're not going to hold a camcorder vertical, although you always could have, right? But it just our tendency, our nature is to hold that kind of device horizontal, probably because the viewfinder's horizontal. So some of it is you're holding your phone. I don't disagree. I mean, I guess it just depends on how you're touching, how you're physically holding your phone. But I hold my phone naturally horizontal because I never talk into it like a headset, like an old fashioned phone. I just say stuff to my speakerphone, and it doesn't matter what orientation my phone is to the planet or to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Same here.
so, so that's just a tendency or a nature. If we're using it like a headset, then yeah, we're going to hold it that way. But some people, I'm sure, hold it horizontally for whatever reason naturally. But I get you that it's sort of the if the tool is designed this way, well, that's the way you're going to make video, and you're not going to necessarily fight that, especially if the tool and the viewer or the machine, the recorder and the viewer are horizontal. Like you said, if you do vertical, you sure can. But now you get the black bars, everything becomes smaller. But sometimes for I think what you were talking about there, they're doing that for an effect, for a subliminal or artistic effect. And if
Right.
you want to impress to someone, how little you are in the sand in the landscape, you might go vertical from a close-up shot and then zoom away because you can get a better dramatic effect of scale with the vertical like that than you ever could with a wide angle. Because with the wide angle, you'd have to have like a massive camera on a big helicopter fly real far away in order to fill that giant widescreen. But with a vertical, you can just kind of drive a block away from somebody or half a couple of steps away from somebody on a zoom and get that same effect. And just most people aren't going to realize that you just killed 90% of the stuff in their screen, that they're just going to look at what's on the screen. And and there might be something to that where we don't even think about it too much, but this
Mhm.
must be an issue. We look at our phones sometimes, we look at our computers sometimes, we look at our TV sometimes, and I'm sure that at this point most of us, especially the youngins, are fluent enough with tech where if we want to see something, we might know that we can pinch and zoom to zoom in on it, but we're by reflex just going to go to our bigger device and look at the thing the other, on a different device or something. Send the file, send the link to ourselves, navigate to the web page or whatever the social page, find the data and look at it on a bigger device. So I think that that's something that we would do the same way you might hold a newspaper closer to your eyes or something back in the old days. Just
Yeah.
we're just getting that, and I think they're playing with that in your movie, where they know that if you just, it would almost seem unnatural if you just filmed a movie with one camera sitting on a tripod the whole time. People would go, "There's something weird about that movie," because nowadays they do
Mhm.
incorporate so many different, drones and handhelds and whatever, all the different kind of cameras now.
But
And
do
maybe
they?
it's just most of the time. I'm
Like,
saying like
I'm
at least
talking
they
about
have it available.
do people recognize that? There are movies that have been shot in
No, I
actually
think we're just
different
accustomed
technique.
to it being there. So
It's a
when they're doing that, I think they're trying to play into that.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
There's a cinematography technique that's used in a lot of different sitcoms. It's been used in a lot of different movies that literally is a one camera. Now it's not necessarily sitting on a tripod. Some it is and it pans, but it's on a boom. It's on a rig. Somebody's holding it, right? But literally they film it with one camera, the entire thing. Um, I can pick up on that, and that's kind of where I was gonna go with this next as you was talking. Is I think it depends on how old you are when you come up, and we first led off with this, when you come up and what you've been exposed to, right? Um, I literally had black and white TV, not because that's all that was around, but that's what like we could afford type thing. I can remember watching black and white TV. I can remember actually playing Nintendo on a black and white TV, which is annoying as all get out, especially with the different colors of Mario mushrooms and stuff. But anyway, um,
Atari had a
so
switch, didn't it? Right on the console to
yeah,
make it black and white or color.
yeah, yeah. Well, monochrome, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, so you've got these varying technology you went through. And an example is like when you talk about vertical, you're talking about restricting the width of whatever scene you're doing. And when we talk about that, one of the things that I remember getting back into like VHS and that 4:3 ratio of old CRT TVs and the letterbox edition VHSs or maybe even the early days of DVD that came out, and you would get those, and you've seen that movie 100,000 times, but then you watch it in letterbox, and of course, again, you've got to put up with the bars at the top and the bottom. But you watch it in letterbox, and you're like, "Holy crap! Like here's the cowboys and Indians, but I didn't realize there was wagons off to the left, or there was this off to the right, or there was a mountain over here, or there's things in that scene because they had to squish it. It was basically filmed in wide, and then they squished it for the majority
Or
of
crop it.
televisions. Yeah, or crop it. Yeah, yeah, crop it. And
And then
so
the other thing is you're looking at it on
it
a
gives a
little 16-inch TV versus a
true,
50-inch HD
true,
4K thing.
true, and it gives a whole other. It can give a whole other perception, and it can add to the movie. And so I think that's why especially with major productions and movies, I think that's why you've seen the push and the real switch to go really wide is you can get more in those shots. You can add more to the story and everything else. Um, so yeah, if you're not coming at it from having a lot of the experience in as far as technology change over the years, I think it's going to make a huge difference in your perception of, hey, is this the future or is this just another thing that's out there?
Yeah, and that's really the question. We're just blabbing, but got a bunch of people joining us. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to people. I've got a bunch of stuff starred here, so when you're joining us live, we appreciate it, and we
Yeah,
bring in
let's
the
hit some stars.
participation here. But what we're talking about is okay. There's a vertical and there's short, and or I mean, there's vertical and there's horizontal, and we've been talking about them in that. But the question really is the future going to go to short duration, vertical orientation or whatever that's called,
Yeah.
video and
Yeah, we've
pictures?
overlooked the short aspect, hadn't we?
No, we're just only 18 minutes in, so we're all right. But yeah, so we hit on the kind of the I don't want to. Well, I guess it's technically the evolution, but it's only the evolution for old people, and that's very age centric. So again, thinking of people that have grown up since 2000, which is 20 something years ago now, 23 years ago. It's not, for a lot of people, they're like, oh, Y2K or whatever. That was, that wasn't that long ago. But for a lot of people, that was their entire lifespan ago. So those folks, they're not thinking of it as, oh, and now vertical is a new thing. Because again, if the first thing they were given as a pacifier was a tablet or a phone, then they were looking at everything vertical. If they were given a Game Boy instead of an Atari, then you know what I mean. They might be thinking vertical. We're not. We're just thinking phones, but there's other content stuff that's out there that's vertical versus horizontal. So I think it also comes from our eyeballs being sideways, and then, like you said, I think a big chunk of it is from the phone turning into a smartphone, and then our ears are on top of our mouth or whatever. Um, all right, there's a lot of topics there. Is the vertical short the future, though? Um, are we going to go to that only? Well, unless TVs start going vertical, is it possible that they'll start to make TVs more like mirrors or something where, they
Well,
take up less real estate on the wall because they go up and down and we just get used to watching stuff up and down?
dude, have you seen the new Apple device that came out? The
What's
AR or
that?
whatever it is, augmented reality goggles.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So you don't even need a screen, in other words, anymore.
yeah, it's going to be. I think that's going to be, and here's why I say there's always going to be a place for vertical, and there's always going to be a place for short. You don't necessarily have to cram those two together, short form content and then vertical content. Um, you know, together or separately. I think there's always going to be a place. But again, I get into kind of the human biology and the way our eyes work. It's kind of like I was talking about the orientation on a telephone. People, even if you talk about the old ones, you the old dial phones or whatever that you held, right? You had the part that you listen to, the part that you talk in, and for the most part, it was vertical. That's because your eyes are, I mean, your ear is higher than your mouth, basically, human biology. And I think eyes are side to side, and you've got peripheral vision is a thing. And so, your everything that I've seen with VR, everything I've seen with augmented reality, with those type things, whether it's VR and you're putting your phone into the headset or it's augmented reality, that stuff is situated horizontally. It's situated landscape. So, um, yeah, I think that again, it's going to be application based, and this gets back into as well when we talk about it being application based, not application like app on your phone, but how it applies. Let's get back gets back into short form content and gets into what Roboto out there was saying, and some others, and the thoughts behind quote unquote short content is if the goal is to just quickly turn the camera on and do 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and it's short, quick, that sort of thing, going vertical with the devices we use nowadays being oriented primarily vertical. Um, I think it's a product of again, and I said, people are lazy and didn't want to flip a phone, and that was exaggerating the situation. But I think for a lot of folks, it's easier to just catch that vertical. And that's the whole point if you're doing shorts. Like for a 15-second little piece of content, do you want to spend like 24 hours of filming and setting up things and whatever? And does it even matter for 15 seconds of content? Right. And I don't know. That's the questions that we're here to answer. But I think that one short form content lends itself to the perks of shooting, I guess, in vertical is what I'm saying.
All right. Took a lot for granted there. A lot of stuff. I didn't even take notes because we got so many other things to talk
Static
about. I didn't want to
monster
get.
got you, G.
Oh, really?
That was weird.
Is that
Yeah, there you go. Maybe. I think the puppy's chewing on his cord. That's what it sounded like. We'll see. And hopefully we'll get to while G's figuring out the mic situation.
situation?
Now we've
Now we
got
got
hellacious
help.
echo while he's figuring that out. Um,
Is it better?
there you go. You're back.
Not yet.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Nothing. That's any better.
I hear you. You're fine. But apparently you can't hear me, I guess. So the puppy didn't chew the cable because I thought he had
Are
Bluetooth
you
on.
saying anything?
I am. You can't see my little thing flickering? Oh, he jumped out and back in. So I'll take a minute. We do got some things starred out here. So hopefully we'll get to those here in a second. And yeah, if you've got questions or if you want to throw topics out there, topic ideas. If you've got those, throw them out there, and we can add those kind of to the list for future shows and whatever. If you want some specific coaching, I'll take a minute to throw this out there too, since we're about halfway in. If you want some specific coaching on specific ideas, projects, other things, get in touch with G Webs or myself, obviously through the Clover Tack channel, not the Guntuber Academy, IG, email, whatever, and we will, yeah, we'll do that. Let's see if she's back.
Is that working yet?
Oh, yeah. If you could
Okay.
hear me, I could hear you earlier. You kept going, "Oh, do you hear me? Do you hear me?" or whatever. And
Yeah, I unplugged my mic, plugged it back in. My computer goes, "What is that? What did you plug in?" And I said,
uh,
"Headset." So it tried to shove my audio into it, I think. So
yeah,
I'm not, I
yeah,
lost
yeah,
my
yeah,
audio. Anyway, sorry about that.
yeah.
So,
You're good. You're good.
um, I don't know where I was at with stuff, but I still think that when you're talking wide, yes, all those things you said, you can put a lot more stuff in there. Sometimes you don't want a lot more stuff in there. If you're a
Right.
talking head, if you're just like, hey, blah, blah,
Blogging.
blah, then you don't want all
Yeah,
that other stuff. You
yeah.
just want your face on there or whatever.
Blogging, and I
So,
think blogging. I think blogging was a really big influence on vertical as well. Selfies and blogging both were very influential with the prevalence of vertical video.
um, all right. So, like I said, we're probably missing a bunch of stuff here, and
Let's grab some comments.
we got a lot of stuff coming in.
So get those knocked
So
out.
I don't know if I didn't get them in the same order or the right order, and I know that somebody's waiting for one of Unapologetically Arms comments, so I got a couple of them here. I don't know which one they're looking for. So the first one I have in here is after you gave the idea to post shorts, I've posted 4 so far. I'm curious if there's a best day of the week or time to release them for better results. So there's releasing content, and then there's specifically releasing short content, and we're talking on YouTube. So you can schedule and you can look at your different statistics or analytics and look at what historically is, and then you can look at what other people tell you, like the way it is, and then you can do testing. You can do it this way for a few weeks, and you can do it that way for a few weeks and get your own results. But that's kind of the general. I don't know what's your advice, Clover?
Short answer to that, and I am going to give the long answer, but short answer is no. Doesn't matter. Um,
For shorts, but it
Everything
would
for
be a different
shorts.
answer
Correct.
for like a
Correct.
different video. Okay.
No, for shorts. Um, and correct basically with everything. Hang on one second. Sorry, I had to cough. Um, for everything that G Web said, it applies. I would say no. Just work on cranking them out. And the reason is I'll go into the reasoning behind it, and we've talked about this before, specifically with like Instagram. Shorts are they're their own thing. They have their own feed with YouTube and everything else. And so imagine a bit having a big huge lake. You having a spillway that feeds into a river, and then downstream of that river, there's obviously a current of that river, right? Water's flowing, and you're going to throw a net out, catch some fish, right? That are swimming down that river. So, is it good to know what at what days and times that the spillway open? Sure, it is. But at any given time, those fish may not be even going down the river. They may be in a bend somewhere or up against a log that's sunken somewhere in the river or whatever, right? But look at shorts content as this constant flow. Um, because by and large, that's what it is. So sometimes, you're going to be in the right place at the right time because you've got that variable of the water moving, right? Sometimes you're going to be in the right place at the right time, and just sometimes you're not. That's just the way it's going to work. Um, Now, one thing that is starting to change, specifically on YouTube with shorts, is shorts becoming more searchable, gaining more favor with the search algorithms, right? So if you're doing something in the form of a short, and in particular if it's something that could be evergreen, right? You're talking about history. You're talking about something that will stand the test of time. In the case of unapologetically armed, If you're talking about current 2A legislation situations, that may not be the case, right? If you're talking about historical court cases, if you're talking about, things of that nature, then that would be more like evergreen, and you might want to uh, tailor that short and what you're talking about, as well as the title and the description, to be a little more search friendly. In other words, put terms and phrases and things in there that people might be searching for, right? And the reason is YouTube is starting to weigh again, starting to weigh on um, putting those, or I'll say they're starting to weigh, they're starting to push shorts in the actual search feed. So, but the vast majority of short content is topic of the day. It's fleeting. It's almost purely entertainment based. And so with that, that's a fleeting thing. It just goes through and you don't see it again, right? So um, yeah, don't put a lot of thought and a lot of time into scheduling and what days. I would say release a short a day. Just about. Definitely release a short every day that you're not releasing some other piece of content, whether that be a live stream or a video or whatever. Definitely fill in daily gaps with that. Um, there are channels that have had success doing multiple shorts a day, and again, it's because it's fleeting. What you've got to be careful with, I think, with vertical and short form content, in particular, is in addition to, as a supplement to the type of content that is your bread and butter that you're already doing, um, it can work out great. What you can end up doing if you're not careful is you can turn yourself into a vertical and or shorts channel if you're not careful. And the problem with that is when you're looking for, as you get down the chain of being serious, being involved, being invested, that sort of thing, um, the less the less of those attributes someone has, the more likely they are to be a shorts viewer. And so, if you're looking for something like calls to action and you're looking like things like that, again, supplemental is fine. But if you're set up strictly as a shorts channel, I don't know that people that are watching your stuff are vested enough to do that. And that's going to depend on your cause. That's going to depend on the types of people that are sympathetic to those causes and other things, but purely opinion based. But I think that, yeah, don't pay attention. And this is long story short. That's why I gave you the short answer first of no. But um, long story short, one a day, you're fine. And as G said, release them at different times and just play around. But for the most part, it's not going to matter.
Well, I don't know if I was saying release them at different times and play around, but I mean, you can. So just to be devil's advocate and to also offer a different perspective on it, um, things are changing and people are more comfortable with this and that, and are the same that the people that are more comfortable with horizontal are adapting and being more familiar and understanding that vertical is necessary even at times. The same is with the other. Anybody who's more comfortable with vertical is they're either going to buy a TV or figure out they can hold their phone the other way, and understand that the horizontal gives you more, uh, other the positives. So, so I don't think it's going to stay the way it is right now because it hasn't. It evolved to where we are now. I'm not saying you have to try to figure out the future, but you don't have to stay doing what's working right now and stay within those parameters, um, for what we're talking about. Something before that made me think of is, for example, you got an hour long horizontal content, whatever it came from, whatever it is, um, testimony, conversation, what do you call it when you just ramble for an hour, and you've got a lot of gaps in between, and you've got some good points from the nuggets, the gold nuggets from when you were rambling. You can go in there and pull verticals from that. Vertical is a format, but it doesn't mean it has to be highly produced and everybody has to look at it. It's just coming through in that channel of their YouTube. And if they're on the bus or if they're waiting in line for the car tires to be rotated or something, and they're watching vertical, but normally they watch horizontal, well, they're still watching vertical. And if you want to get in on that area, or if you just want to add that to your mix, then there's that element to it. Um,
Yeah,
so
great.
I'd say don't be afraid of it and don't discount it and don't flip over to it. I mean, just incorporate it the same way you would incorporate any other, new piece of it, except that this is one we're encouraging you to participate in, I guess. I don't think either one of us are saying to ignore it at all. As far as when to post them, I'm going to throw this out there as just another way to look at stuff. Sure, YouTube might not be able, might throw your shorts into a pile that it's going to get shuffled into everybody else's shorts. So to some extent, when you post it, doesn't matter to YouTube. But you've also got an audience. You've got the people that are returning to your project. You've got your newsletter. You've got your efforts that you do on whatever your schedule is. So if shorts fit into your schedule on Tuesdays in the morning, and people get used to that, then they're anticipating your short on Tuesday. They may not care or know or be able to even find it in their shorts feed because that gets fed to us,
Yeah,
but they might go to your channel and be waiting for your short. And that's what I was going to throw out there, that if you want to do it as a way for yourself to have a routine, way for yourself to have some discipline and a schedule, if you're going to get better, well, do stuff. You can't just get better by wishing you were better or watching other people get better. Do
right.
stuff and you learn. And one of the ways to do that is to say, okay, every morning I'm going to get up and do a short. Every Wednesday I'm going to do a short. Clover and I do this show on Tuesdays, right? Like this is an effort to do stuff. So that's where I'm going to say that even though YouTube might not appreciate it, you might not win or might not be a useful effort on the YouTube side. It's not going to hurt you at all. And
Right.
there's that you can foster that, and you're not going to get people to show up every Tuesday for a short if you're not posting a short every Tuesday.
Yep. Well,
And it's not that that's necessary. I'm just throwing that out as an alternative way to look at it. It's not
another
necessary. That's not a recipe.
another point with shorts that it's something that's seldom brought up that needs to be talked about, and is accidental views. And a lot of times you can tell this by, you're like, oh, that one got a whole lot of views, and that must people must really like that subject or whatever. Well, not necessarily. Don't just look at views. Make sure you're paying attention to your watch time, your retention. And here's the reason: you may have a short that blows up, and you're like, wow, that got a whole lot of views. What in the world? Well, it was the next video in that stream of videos behind a super popular, viral, big time YouTuber, whatever, right? And so what's happening is people are hitting that and watching that, and it automatically flips to the next video, which is you. And so, if you're talking 15 seconds in as long as your video is, let's say, because the vast majority of my shorts, so I can use popular music, I've cut them down to 15 seconds. But when that flips from the one that they went and watched that's viral or whatever the case may be, even semi-viral, and that video's over and it flips, right? Then there may be a few seconds before the person realizes, oh, I don't care about this. And they swipe up or whatever, swipe off or whatever the case may be. And then you've got 15 seconds. And then now you've got, let's say, 3 seconds. Well, that's 20% retention, right? So, um, just keep in mind that that is a thing with the way that that constant stream in the short feeds work, that you can actually catch views that you're just it's just residual. It's left over from the video before yours, and that does happen.
Or maybe there's some kind of new barbecue sauce that Oprah talked about. Does Oprah even have a show? I don't even know if I was using I don't know anybody that's new TV shows. But back in the day, if Oprah said something, then everybody went and checked it out.
Yeah,
So
she's got a
somebody,
network now, I think.
so whoever the hot of the day is, right? Like tells you to go get the thing of the day, the barbecue sauce of the day, and then your video is why guns and barbecue is so good. And that's when it doesn't have to be next in the line. It could just be oh, you looked at a barbecue sauce thing, and here's a guy who's talking about how barbecue is so good.
Yeah, true.
Boom. And now you're, like you say, you're getting fed off of a hype, trendy, blah, 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 fashion book
Yeah,
review, something else. And then
yeah.
you're saying something dramatically different,
With
and boom, everybody's gone.
yeah, with
You don't
but
know that on a
there's
short. You just see hit, 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 and you're like, oh wow, I can't. I got to talk about barbecue every day.
yeah, right. Yeah, I call that the slingshot effect. And it's because in NASCAR term, right? One car behind another cuts down the draft, the wind shear, and then slingshots around, right? And that's been a thing for a while, actually, in even with traditional content, landscape content, and that's where suggested when we talk about videos and breaking into search is the easiest. You got three. You got search, suggested, and browse, right? And so search is the easiest to break into. You have some control over that with your keywords you use and the popularity of the topic and other things. Um, Suggested is the next one, not as easy to break into. We love in that as the same as search. But if you've got similar content to other channels, and then browses, YouTube really loves you, and so they're pushing you out to a wide variety of audience. That's the hardest. But anyway, with search, with suggested, um, I've seen situations where, not with, again, not with shorts, but it certainly could apply in the sense G Webs was talking about with shorts, where I put out a video and it gets suggested alongside a bigger channel that's getting much, much more views. And then all of a sudden, because it's suggested, and maybe I answer more questions about it than that person did, or maybe just the vast majority of people. This, whatever. I'm not going to say I did a better job at the video or anything like that, but for some reason, it gets my video there alongside the other one, and then before you know it, my video takes over as the dominant video. So that slingshot effect. And sometimes that can happen too. You have directly opposite of what I was talking about. What I was talking about is you was just riding coattails, right? On something. And then, but it can also happen that you ride coattails, but your video is more relevant or resonates better or whatever, or your shorts, I should say in this case, is maybe it's better produced. Maybe it's more relevant. Maybe it answers a deeper philosophical question. Who knows, right? But it resonates. And then the next thing you know, it could actually overtake that one that it was riding the coattails of. So be mindful of that as well.
Yeah, and you're allowed to try that. I mean, you can have fun with platforms and the logarithms, right? And you can play with that. You don't have to just be at the whim of them. If you're, in the rapids long enough, you can figure out where to point and aim, and where you can make gains and where you want to avoid. Um, and we're talking apples and oranges, kind of with something you might catch on to. If you can catch on to something adjacent or on topic, then that's win-win. As far as, let's see, after you get the idea of push short, so if there's a best day of the week, there is definitely a best time of the week for everybody to post anything, and you can get that analytic from both Instagram and YouTube by going in and seeing when your viewers are in. Like, it'll tell you both how many viewers you have, of what, and when. So you can determine that and potentially post stuff so that it's like fresh when they're there. But the good news about all these platforms is if you post it at 9 a.m., it's there at 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. So if you post it in the morning or something, it's going to be there for the day. But
Yep.
schedule or consistency, I guess what Clover was saying, I think is the key. So
Yeah. And that's
um,
more important for produced stuff. It's more important for live. It's more important for
for
uh,
the viewer and for the
produced
system,
video.
but I think for the person, it's probably better to think about, I'm going to do a short every day before lunch, or I'm going to do a short every day before I start doing
Consistency is
something
key.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
or discipline. I mean, use
Yep.
that as a way for you, because it's a short. I mean, of all the things you could
Right.
do, it's just does. And you're gonna get, when you do something daily, you're gonna start to figure out, what if I just did this as a shortcut? And you go, oh, why wasn't I doing that all the time? And you're gonna figure out these things that you just don't do when you only do a video once or twice. It's not the same as when you've done it a dozen times or a couple of dozen times. All right, so hopefully that was that question. And the next one was reason for the curiosity. First three, or reason, I think, for the curiosity is first three shorts were posted on a Wednesday, and views took off immediately. The fourth posted on a Sunday and has barely been seen. So that's not enough data. First off, don't get. Here's a thing that I don't bring up enough. You can only look at this stuff monthly if you want to stay sane. And once you're cooking, monthly is plenty. Your tendency is to look at it constantly, but they say watch pot never boils. I mean, name anything where poking at it and picking at it and looking at it too much is going
Yeah.
to help. You almost always want to try to go. That's why I like multiple projects. Like do
Yep.
something, let that recipe cook, and then go bake some bread. Like, do something and then let that cook. Go away. Do something else.
Yep. Don't
Let the
sit there and
paint
watch
dry.
the oven. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Set your timer. Don't sit there and watch the oven. Move on to making the pot of beans or whatever that goes with the cornbread. Sure.
And then it's like, oh, I need to do stuff. I'd like to do
Yeah.
stuff on Wednesdays. So I'm going to do it on Wednesdays for 3 months and then see if it's working. But
Right.
don't do it on Wednesday and go, last Wednesday
Well,
sucked. I'm not going to
this
do it next Wednesday. And then you start changing right off the bat. You've only done it for 2, 3 Wednesdays and now you're changing
yeah.
your course.
It also understand that those days fluctuate. They're going to be not only are they going to be different from one creator to the next, not only are they going to be different depending on what type of content you put out, but they're also going to be different depending on the time of the year, right? For general in school, work week type situation, September to May, let's just say whatever. Um, yeah, I mean, weekends may seem better in that context, right? Because people are working, they're off on the weekends, they're more apt to be sitting around and just piddling on their phone or whatever. But then the summertime gets here, right? And you may see a little bit of a drop off on the weekend, but an uptick in the week. So it's something that there's no hard and fast definitive rule of that. Like anything you figure out, and that's part of what G was saying, give it time to cook and check over, at least I would say a week or two at the very least. Um, get a pretty good sample size and some pretty good time behind it, decent time, I should say, behind it, before you start making any wild decisions. And then always be paying attention and going back and double checking and that sort of thing because it can change. It's a moving target, unfortunately.
And here's awesome. Here's what's fun is whenever you get something figured out, then the system will change or trends will change or they come up with a
Yeah,
new thing that
always.
everybody leaves and goes over there.
Yeah,
So,
always.
oh, I mastered this, but now it's
Yeah,
MySpace or something.
yeah,
So great.
right, right, exactly.
So and or I mastered YouTube and then shorts happen, or I mastered YouTube and then live happen. I mastered live and then shorts. You can't win, or at least you can't win for a long time without just doing boobs or something. Like boobs are going to win all the time, right? Little puppy videos win all the time. Like kicking the
Correct.
balls videos work all the time.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Hit that super chat from Robato.
yeah, Domo says thanks both of us, everybody here. Oh, and then he's saying thanks to everybody. So yeah, very much appreciated. Um, I think, well, I don't know. One day, if somebody wants, we can take a look at how that stuff works or whatever, how super chats and all that stuff works. I don't think it's. I don't know. I don't want to discount it. I think if you're doing a channel with business or computers or home ec, home education of some sort, or fashion for sure. Um, DIY, that kind of stuff, those kind of things. There's probably a lot of money to be made on YouTube. Uh, so we could probably do a video on that kind of stuff if somebody wanted sometime. It's not a lot of money on the gun side as much, or a little
Yeah,
tougher to pull the money out from the gun side.
yeah,
So Domo said short content better for me because of my time constraints, my perception that I don't have time even for 4 to 5 minutes. Well, here's the thing. I think that unless you're really good at storytelling or you've put a lot of effort into production and editing, so in other words, editing like other people have looked at it and said, this is repetitive or this is, how many times are you going to say this?
hmm,
I personally hate it when people are like, hey, here's the thing. If you say things 3 times, it sinks in. Hey, if you say things 3 times, it sinks in. Hey, if you say things 3 times, it sinks in. Like, I hate that. And it's either because they're a politician trying to program you or they're super bored and they don't have it scripted at all and they're just rambling, accidentally doing it 3 times, or they're just really close to
Well,
programming to me. So I don't like it when I'd rather hear somebody that's just telling you the data, and you can always click rewind if you missed it.
mm,
And I think that's the difference. Is most people, I think, even if we don't, if people don't say it, because no one's asked them in a survey, I think people, now that there's an option, oh, I can watch a 5 second highly edited cap cut, bloop 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 bloop, flip 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 flip, get the whole recipe in 3 seconds, or how to change the light bulb in my refrigerator in like 10 seconds instead of a 10-minute video.
yeah,
I'm taking the 10 seconds. I don't need to hear this guy talk about a blah blah blah. Back in my day, we would turn the screw the other way and blah blah blah. Like, I'm not here to be entertained about changing the light bulb. Now, if it's hey, let's listen to this guy tell stories about the old days, okay, I'm gonna go watch that if I care about that. But I think that's the
right,
difference. That it's not that we have a short attention span; it's just that we have options now. And if
yeah.
somebody's going to put together a 15-second thing on how to make that omelet, and you can get back to making your omelet, yeah, thank you for that.
Well, and the that's a common question. A common question with content creators in general is how long should a video be? And the question is, as long as it needs to be to accomplish the value proposition that you're offering. Now, your value proposition may be education, the history of light bulbs, along with, changing that light bulb, right? I mean, maybe that's your okay. Okay, I want to tell everybody how to change the light bulb. I want to show them how to change the light bulb, but within the context of changing the light bulb, we're going to discuss the history of the light bulb, right? And so that's the value proposition to educate. If it's just changing the light bulb, then yeah, you're going to have a whole lot of editing out a bunch of blathering to get that time down to just the nuts and the bolts. What I would say about short form content, and to Roboto's kind of point there, I don't have time, don't have time for that. Yeah, a 4 to 5 minute video. I'll give you a great example. I went over and looked because the video I'll have that drops later today is 8 minutes, roughly about 8 minutes, a little over 8 minutes. I padded it honestly to get some for advertising CPM purposes. Topic for a different show, but um, I it's 8 minutes. That was 5 hours, 6 hours with all the filming, the setup, the filming, the staging, the camera, the camera movements and work, the graphics, the editing, the tags, the title, the everything, right? From the time it was up, it was set up, it was on YouTube and it was ready to go. Probably 5 hours for an 8-minute video. So, the filming time, a lot of people think about the filming time and they're like, "Oh man, a short's, 15 seconds or whatever." I got to take a call. I'll be right back.
Whatever you said for the time for that 3 minutes of video or whatever, and then how long is it going to be on YouTube? How many times can you use that over and over for other projects? Oh, I got it. Did I get it? Oh, I got it. So that 15-second short, how many times is it going to be seen? How many people is that going to introduce you to? I think getting comfortable with shorts is a crucial skill set. Be able to pick up a phone and do a short and get used to, I don't want to call it disposable, but be able to understand that a 10-second vertical impromptu video can be like a knife. It can be both an implement that is a tool that lets you survive in times. It can let you get to the top quickly, get to the top quickly, or it could kill you. Like, it could literally be a razor across the neck. Puppy's in his own live stream here with a bunch of his friends. He had to get his own little tiny laptop. So I think that I don't know where Clover was going with that. So the
Oh, just that even with shorts, um, just to keep in mind that when people think shorts, they think, "Oh, I'll do a 15-second video," right? Well, you still got a little bit of getting the title and getting it uploaded and everything else. And it works the same with any content, like produce content. Like it always is going to take. There's more
Well,
time. There's more time. There's often this misconception, and it's more about viewers than it is creators. Creators obviously understand this, but viewers will see a 5 6 minute video, 4 or 5 minutes, like Roboto was saying, and they think, oh, anybody can do that. It's 4 or 5 minutes. Well, no. I mean, sometimes a 4 to 5 minute video could take 20 hours to, from start to finish to get everything done. So
well, you get out of it what you put into it, type of.
so when we're talking short form content, it's exponentially quicker, I guess is what I'm saying, because of the, again, like we're talking about feminine vertical, uploading it directly,
I think you're being a timist.
it's usually not nearly as polished. There's all of these aspects that go into it that exponentially make it quicker to do, and
Right.
take less time than
But
normal
I think you're throwing
footage.
a lot on there. You're being a timist. You're assuming that you're marginalizing short vertical videos by suggesting that they're all impromptu. While that is an element to them and they lend
No, not
themselves
at
to
all.
that, a lot of times you take your super highly edited, polished stuff that's half an hour long and you chop it into 30-second pieces. And now those are out there. And those are different because they don't take much time to create. Like you say, they take an ultimate amount of time to get
Yeah.
built
Well,
the first place.
there's gonna be a difference between unique and repurposed. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I don't even think they have to be repurposed because if you think about that, if you think about, okay, we're going to be making vertical short segments from this, then I'm going to incorporate that into here. Anyway, I think there's ways that you could be anticipating and prepare for it, and then literally make these things while you're making the long term, and even do something where I'm going to do 8 of them during this long term, and if you catch one of those and you can comment on each of them, then that now you're in the running for this thing or something. Like there's some ways you could play with that. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there's
I'm not
it's just
disagreeing.
not always. Yeah, I just wanted to say, we're
Yeah.
talking vertical short, but let's not assume that it means impromptu selfie videos. It can be lots of stuff. You
Yeah.
can really play with this how you want.
And when I say repurposed, I'm not talking about, um, you know,
Just reruns.
yeah, I'm not talking about reruns. Yeah, I'm talking about you pulled, something from something I'm just talking about you already had the
Just
footage
using
there,
your own
basically.
content for
You
building
save
blocks with the
time.
new tower. Yeah.
Yeah, you save time from the footage filming aspect, but you still gotta cut it, you gotta upload it, that's what I'm saying. Even in a
Yeah.
15-second video, you've still got a certain amount of time,
Well,
involved
ultimate
in
amount of time because you still built that original content, which took
it.
another amount
Right.
of time. It's like an exponential, really.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exponential, the difference. Yeah.
But then that being said, get comfortable. That's what I was saying is get comfortable, just do them. Like, because as much as I said, you can put time into it, it's worth putting time into it. I think when you walked away, I was saying, you put all that you think about, you were saying something about it takes this much time to get something set up, and it might just be a result that's moments long or a few minutes long. But then I said, how long is that on the internet? How many times can you repurpose that? How many people will be affected by what you said in there? So and then that's a double-edged sword because you could mess it up. You could think you're being fast and quick, and you end up being dumb and foolish. And now you've put like what do they say? You put a pie in your face up on the internet. You can. It's not always positive, and you got to be careful. Um, I guess I was also going to add to it that when you talk about time invested in it, if someone can do a quick 10-15 second effective selfie type short, and somebody goes, "Oh, anybody can do that." Well, no, because I mean, yes, technically, but the way that they're able to do it with finesse and have effective, or have effect with it, is because they've done it a billion times, and
Mhm.
that counts to what you're saying. Like you
Yeah.
can't discount the amount of time and effort it takes to get the
Well,
experience, so that you can do
yeah.
that 15-second one impromptu.
Well, we say it all the time that, it's like we don't do content creation is not anything that's crazy foreign that, I mean, anybody can turn on a camera and do it. And I think the reason that we've got folks out there listening to this and whatever is, they want to be able to do it effectively to whatever their goal and their purposes are, right?
Good
That's
point.
a whole different thing. Like, can you do it? Yeah. Can you have success? Yeah. Now, success at what would be the question. And I think a lot of creators get blinded by, rather than real world, the IRL, for the kids that are out there, IRL success, right? And the actual tangible stuff, they get caught up in defining success by, arbitrary numbers, whether that be views or whether that be subscribers, or, whatever the case may be. And, yeah, I mean, anybody can do it, and anybody can do it successfully by their realistic expectation of success. So, yeah, we've got we've got few more comments, I think, and then we're
Oh yeah, we can
caught up.
exercise that too. So that's a muscle that you exercise. That's a skill set that you hone, right?
Yep.
By doing. So throw that out there. All right. So if we wailed on that one the wrong direction, let us know. And then it's just Domo is just saying to Clover, thanks for reviewing the Bursa AR. Uh, so you want to take
Yeah.
a second and chat it up?
Yeah, the video's over on the Clover Tech channel. Go check that out if you hadn't, I guess. But got several that I've used that in, and still using it, still playing around with it. But yeah, seems pretty solid. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's an AR, but an AR from Bursa is interesting. Their first foray into U.S. manufactured products, which makes it, to me, even cooler than Bursa making an AR. You're going to break the matrix filming the dog, chatting with dogs there, G. So be careful.
Yeah, I got an Instagram picture of the dog having a live stream with the other dogs while we're live streaming with people. But he got sick of always having to watch people live stream, I guess. MC saying recently I've noticed using the phone app making a short. If audio is selected, the video cannot be viewed or video adjusted within the video. So we were kind of talking about this. Um, I don't know. I don't want to get too much into the technical of it, other than to say there's a new set of tools, a new set of difficulties and complications, challenges. It's a skill set. So filming on YouTube is one thing, doing live is one thing. Shorts are certainly a separate thing altogether, besides just holding your camera a different way. But I don't know if you want to dig into that in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, on depending on the devices you're using and the version of the apps and different things, it's all going to change. We're talking about YouTube, the specific issue MC's having. I don't have, um, so I don't know. I don't know what I don't have that issue, so it doesn't seem like it. The what he's talking about with the audio levels and adjusting doesn't seem to me like it's a roll of the dice. I've got control of that, so um, you
I
know,
think I know what he means. It's happened to me on my phone. I've gotten into a place where I'm like doing my short, and I don't remember if it's when there's a thing on your phone where you can take a video of yours and chop it into a short.
yeah.
But I don't know if it's when I go in that way, or if it's when I instantly
Ah, okay.
it in a file, or if it's when I take a,
So
because you can go to your phone app and you can say, start making this a short, and it'll film off of your camera live into a short. But then you can also film that on your camera and then go to YouTube and say, take the file and into a short. And those are all three different entries into
right, this is
filming
true.
this short.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's where I
yeah.
think it's random, because I know I've experienced it, and I was like, "Here's me. I don't care," and I just did it
Well,
without the video or whatever. I did it without the audio, but I didn't
yeah,
troubleshoot it. I didn't care that much about YouTube to troubleshoot it, I guess.
yep. So I've played around, yeah, and sometimes you can put too much time in it for it being a short, but um, I've played around with doing it from the app, pulling the clip from the video via an existing video via the app. I've done that. I've done the filming and then do it on the everything from the phone. But the most common way that I do it, because I've got the raw footage, I've got all the other stuff, and the resolutions are higher that way anyway. But I'll usually edit the vertical, then shoot that over to my phone, and then just upload that video as a. So it's a yeah. You're right. It depends on the approach you're taking with it for sure. And my approach is probably probably more time intensive and takes a little bit longer than most people are willing to do with shorts. But that's just how I'm used to doing it. It's convenient. It works out. I've got a little more control over it that way. And so that's probably why I haven't run into that issue.
I don't think you're alone. There's a lot of people that understand the value of shorts and the reach that shorts offer, and understand that the potential doesn't necessarily have to be clear at the beginning of something like shorts, which are essentially pretty game changing. At least they appear to be pretty game changing, have the potential to be pretty game changing. So there's going to be people that participate there that aren't, I mean, are almost, anyway. So there's going to, you're not alone with the people that do highly produced shorts, and not just pulling them off of larger stuff. So unapologetically arms to that says, yeah, so far I'm pulling less than a minute clips from the horizontals, uh, to make shorts, adding text and to help drive the point home. So appreciate that for one, because for people that don't know, Apologetically Armed is a DC project representative, one of the many ladies throughout the country that takes a message of legislation over, or excuse me, education over legislation to our representatives consistently. Like once a year, they'll go to DC, they'll go to the local state representatives, and they'll bring this message that we don't have just one option of more laws, and there's other things you can do to mitigate the social ills that we all have a problem with, and it's not persecuting gun owners or property. So they bring this important message to representatives, also leave their card and say, hey, when you want somebody who knows what we're talking about, call on us. And they've been tasked with that. Oh, there's the Instagram doing this whole thing. We're live on Instagram doing this. So, they've done some important stuff. So Susan in Missouri is doing this important stuff and documenting it along the way, both with their own cameras and obviously with their own time and effort, but with their own cameras. And then the state legislature will have whatever C-SPAN is called in each state. They'll have those feeds that are, I suppose, what is that, public domain or whatever. She'll grab shorts from those. And how effective is that? And how inspirational is that? And in the long term, how necessary and how useful is that when 10 years, 20 years, 100 years from now, they're trying to do research on how did we stay free? Who were the people that kept us free with all these attempts to marginalize, at such large levels? How were we able to challenge that? And they'll have those examples. Plus now, it's actual people finding that stuff on social. Oh, I didn't know there was actual ladies spending their own time and money, going to the legislators and doing this. Like, how can I get involved? How can I encourage my local gun shop to sponsor this, so that if every gun shop was doing it, they'd be able to do this not just more often, but in style. And it would be something, that we could all champion. But anyway, without getting on too many topics there, pulling those verticals from horizontal videos and adding text and stuff, that's a whole nother skill set. That's a whole nother level of YouTube that has, I mean, some people are exploring it, but I think for the most part, especially in our community, has yet to be tapped. Because think about how much live content there is. Like right now, I'm live streaming this Instagram of this stream of the puppy being bored and watching his own live stream. Right. So, the future is how many people are going to be able to go back to the past and pull important stuff out, or send AI to go find those important pieces. But I guess I consider another topic.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so you want to click on this one or pull in verticals from existing horizontals for shorts? Anything you want to add to that? Oh, he might be on the phone. Hold on.
No, I don't have
Okay.
any. Nah, nah.
All right. So She Fires is out there. Good afternoon.
Nice.
All right. So the topic was vertical shorts. Is it the future? So I probably should have put a poll out there. I wasn't even taking full use of our resources here today. Sorry about that. Are verticals the future? I guess I will put a poll out real quick. Clover, what's your answer to that?
The future? No. A part of the future, yes.
Okay. Do you think that anyone thinks it's going that way and that horizontals will be gone
I think there
because of
probably
what
is.
you're saying?
I think there probably is, but I don't
Because
think
of the
they're.
goggles and augmented reality and holograms or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. I think there are people, but I think that those people again, they lack the life experience and everything of seeing the way tech has moved and how a lot of similarities with old stuff still exist today. And you know, yeah, they're maybe they're that's all they do is shorts. Maybe they're so zoned into that they they're not pulled out to that 30,000 foot view. It's not that their perspective or perceptions are inaccurate. It's just I don't know that the people that think that, I don't know that they are thinking about all the different angles. And that's why conversations like this are important to share different perspectives and things. I don't know. I don't know if you was muted or what happened.
I'm not saying anything. Sorry about that.
The puppy got
Um,
bored with the live stream apparently.
no, I've just got too many stuff open. I was going to find out if anyone's contacted me. I had Instagram open on my phone, but I didn't look at if anyone had contacted us to talk and contacted me to see if they wanted to jump in for a chat after. I don't know if anybody's contacted you, but we do offer that if you're interested in having a chat with either of us or together privately
Yep.
off the air once this is over. We both stick around for a bit and are both more than happy to offer some specific insight if you got a project or something you're trying to work on. But I don't have anything over on Instagram asking us about that.
Yeah, I don't see anything yet. I'm flipping over to one more page here.
We had a couple of topics. I did get the poll going, so anybody that wants to um, answer, go ahead. Or if you've got an alternative response, I just put yes and no because I was trying to be fast. I probably could have put a couple of different versions in there. But if you've got topics for a future show, we're interested. We had these, I think, from Sheet Fires. I forgot who suggested some of these topics from a couple of weeks ago. But our goal is to not just waste everybody's time. We're certainly not trying to get rich and famous off this show, but I do appreciate the super chats for sure. But the goal really is just to give you some inspiration, some uh, insight, and some perspective, and hopefully encourage people to participate. I do think it's a great time to be online. Honestly, let me ask you this: you got a minute still, or you got to run out of here, Clover?
I'm okay for a few minutes.
So I haven't asked you this ever or in a while at least. Certainly not in 2023. Where are we at in 2023? On a uphill, downhill, middle of the road? Are we on a positive slope, a negative slope? Where are we as far as the internet and gun community 2A on the internet? And what kind of future? Where are we at? Like, are you dire, optimistic?
I think it's optimistic, and I think it's getting even more optimistic. Um, and I'm just looking at um, I'm looking at a lot of the ways I'm seeing, especially with I can't speak publicly to a lot of this, but some of the anti-gun organizations that have appealed, uh, pleaded, harassed, whatever, YouTube over things, and the way in which they're doing that, having to do with firearm related content and some stuff. Again, can't really talk publicly about too much of that, but um, just the way it's not uncommon for them to do that, but the way that YouTube seems to be reacting to that um, is, hey, our content creators are not doing anything illegal. For the most part, they're being responsible. It's valuable educational content. A lot of it that's on the platform. Um, basically step off, right? But the tactics in which they're using, because they're shifting the narrative, they would, at first they go after these platforms and go, oh, that's illegal or blah 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 blah, and then now they're moving to things that are dangerous. Well, there's all kinds of things that could be dangerous, um, you know, and they're starting to lump at least in the context of what I've seen as far as these organizations approaching YouTube, they're starting to lump rap lyrics. They're starting to lump movies, video games, and the violence within to firearm related content. They're starting to actually lump it all together, right? I view that as a positive because you know what kind of pushback the quote unquote artists, right? Hollywood and music and other things are going to say to that type of pushback. They're going to say, "Get out of here with that nonsense." This is our artistic purview or whatever the case may be. So,
Well,
um,
plus it's kind of the perception, just cut you off. It's part of the perception that, oh, well, how dare you suggest video games are the cause of violence in society?
right?
That's
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
discounting the actual causes, and you're actually,
yeah.
being disingenuous to the actual,
Right.
trying to get rid of the causes. So
Mhm.
if they realize that guns are again a scapegoat, if we've been marginalized as gun owners and our property has been this excuse for the failed policies, that's a massive win. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Massive win.
yeah. It's creating an ally or allies actually, in a way, towards the idea of freedom. Anyway, and towards the idea of liberty. So I think we're in a positive slope. I mean, if you um, look at the injunctions with the pistol brace rule, multiple. It doesn't mean anything. Who knows how that's all going to play out? There's traction and movement happening again on the bump stock thing. We've seen application of Bruin in smaller courts. Bruin, I hate calling it that, but New York State Rifle and Pistol Association. Um, we've seen the application of that in a bunch of lower court decisions that seldom are we even hearing about. And people are really talking about. They're talking about the big things, which is typically the pistol brace thing. But even in some smaller things, as far as age restriction, I think it was North Carolina or South Carolina, or maybe it was Virginia. I don't even remember, one of those states over there. Um, that it was application to the age restrictions, right? And they applied. The court applied New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, which they should. So we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing some of the more liberal precincts starting to freak out. Look at Gavin Newsom and his whatever it is, 28th Amendment or the whatever to get rid of the like. Really, you really think that's going to happen? And so it's a major virtue signaling thing when they start pulling out that. I mean, how often have we really ever heard at least anybody on the stage that Gavin Newsom has? Have we heard anybody to that level just outright come out and say, "Let's repeal the Second Amendment"? I mean, so because they're actually starting to say now what they've always wanted to do and mean. Um, they're doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on what has over the last few years anyway, summer love, lockdowns, everything else, talking about two-way and firearm ownership, become a more popular sentiment to support, I think. And by them, Hail Mary passes like we're going to change the Constitution like they're not getting traction. And that's why they've got to come out and just make these wild, crazy statements like, "Ooh, we're going to change the Constitution." Sure, you are, dude. Like, yeah, whatever. Um, the founders set that up, set the Constitution, set this country up in a way that in order to do something serious like changing the Constitution, you require a more than majority consensus. And right now, they don't have that. That's why they're throwing those and they're baseless threats is all that is, and that's why they're throwing that out there. Um, it's like the crazy person on the phone with tech support that's not getting their way, and they go, "Oh, I'll sue your company if you don't give me this or that or blah, blah, blah," and they don't got the money to sue your company or anything else. They're just ticked off because they're not getting their way, and so when that happens, they just say the first thing whatever pops into their head. Um, and I think that's all evidence that we're trending in a positive direction. Are there losses? Are we having losses on local levels and state levels here and there? Yeah. I mean, but that's going to happen. I mean, it's a dynamic. Um,
Well, are the losses permanent, destructive losses that are cancerous to the rest of the gains, or are they struggles and flailing, arms of the losers who are, grasping at straws or whatever the words are to like just throw stuff from their inventory out on the table,
mhm.
and it's just going to last as long as it takes for the
I
courts
think
to
that's it.
erase
Yeah.
it all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Court stuff takes time. Look at not interjecting different political opinions because I don't care about your opinion or whatever one way or another. But look at Roe v. Wade, right? Look how long that was a standing thing, and then the courts, said, "Oh, well, no, okay, we've taken a look at this, and under these circumstances in this situation, we see how this shouldn't be this way, right?" So sometimes it can take years, decades even. So, and that's why it's important to keep up the fight and keep chipping away, chipping back away. They chipped away at our rights to take them away in the fashion that they have. It's been a steady chipping. It hasn't been a all sweeping, all encompassing. That's where you see other countries. They take Australia, for example, who all of a sudden passes this big draconian thing in the almost the middle of the night, just in the matter of a couple of days, right? And it hasn't been that way with gun rights here in the United States. It's been a chipping and a chipping and a chipping, um,
Well,
and
that
it's
was a
gotten to the
big
point.
piece,
It's
but it
gotten to the
had.
point that everything they've got now, as far as laws on the books, and we're talking at the federal level, with laws on the books as far as firearms, everything they've got now, it's already past the point of this idea of common sense, and people have gotten onto that. They've caught on to that, and that's why you're hearing them holler, "Change the Constitution" now. It's because they've chipped so much that the only things left for them to try to push is big things. Oh, the reason we still have violence is we haven't addressed, it's because we've got the Second Amendment. Like, really? Like, come on.
Well, it also shows that they're who they're talking to. They're not
Yeah,
talking to the other side. They're not talking to anybody on their side that's trying to do anything,
yeah.
because the only people on their side are paid to be there, standing there and complain, or are exploited people who are victims. So yeah, they're talking to those people who are the mass of people in the center who don't have an opinion, who are completely uninformed. So when you say, "Oh, blah blah blah," you take it as it's presented, and you go, "Yeah, yeah, okay." So that's who they're, that's showing you that again that their tactic,
Uh,
I guess, is evidence of their
well,
position, like you're saying.
there's less and less people in the middle every day, as far as uninformed, I should say. There's not that there's not people in the middle, but there's less and less of the uninformed every day, and the more, um, especially as tech moves along, part of these conversations and social media, the internet, and people have access to things. Um, and that's what's scary to them. They realize that they've lost their grip. They used to have a couple of major news networks, and then
Hmm.
they used to have a couple of major news networks and a couple of major cable networks that did their bidding and spun their narrative and did things the way that they wanted it done, talking about anti freedom, anti liberty elements. And now, I mean, they can't control this thing called the internet, and more people are moving to that. Um, how many people don't have TV antennas to even watch regular network television? How many people don't have cable packages and satellite TV? They get everything from the internet, and you know, cable TV in a sense of news and cable and network TV. That is, so you turn it on and you watch whatever the heck is on. And we've moved as society. This is one of the good things about the instant gratification society is we've moved into the instant gratification society to where we've got the Netflixes and the Hulus and the whatever, and we click on the internet. We don't need any of those over the airwaves network TV crap. We click on the internet, we click on exactly what we want to watch, and we watch it. And that includes news and news sources. And we can get specific stories and to specifically tailored to what we care about. We don't got to sit through you know 3 hours of early evening programming, and then finally get to the news, and they may or may not discuss the topic of that's going on in the country that we may or may not want to hear about, specifically tailored to what we want to learn, what we want to educate ourselves on, and what we want to know. So they're scared to death of that, and that's why you're seeing. That's why you've seen a lot of the censorship issues going on and a lot of the other things. It's because they understand that it's a beast they can't control, and people by and large want to be educated, not told what to think or what to say, but want to go out and educate themselves on what they should be thinking and what they should be saying. And it's an individual spirit, and it like I said, the internet is in that sense, the internet is kind of like the wild wild west when folks started moving west from the east coast and forging new ground and all that good stuff. So yeah.
We got the railroad though. We've got the telegraph. So it's the Wild West, but we've got to be careful. It's not raw anymore. Um, I'm saying that because I
No, I
think
agree. It's the later stages of yeah, definitely.
it's
Definitely.
still we got you can still land. What do they call that when you claim a bunch of land? You can still there's a word for that when you just say, "Hey, homestead." Is that what it is? Like I'm just gonna hang out here and this will be my land. And they were like, "Yeah, go for it." Um, you can still do that. I mean, there's still big chunks of land. There's plenty of it, and you can still do your thing out here. You can still make a town, right? They're still laying out railroads and stuff. I'm just saying, like, we're not completely raw. And the reason I say that is I came up with an idea for next week, and what I was going to suggest the idea for next week is would be if everybody's down is the Second Amendment message still important to provide? Something about what you were saying there made me think like honing that, creating that, assuming that other people are going to do it, thinking it's over, it's not necessary, we've won. Is it really necessary to talk about this stuff that isn't lucrative, that isn't interesting, doesn't create subscribers or viewers? It's controversial and it doesn't look good to monetize, right? Um, so, is the Second Amendment message still important to provide? Is potentially the topic for next week. Um, Kind of a different angle on, is it still relevant to value your voice? Like, okay, value your voice, but do you need to do anything with it, right? If you're okay with that. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to jump over to my best friend, the internet robot, and tell it this title idea and give me a cool, catchy title for it, right? And I got disappointed with my robot friend because it gave me like 12 anti gun titles essentially. So that's frustrating. This is the new 4 version of its brain. So that makes me wonder if it's worth having some kind of effort in the future, in the time, maybe in the near future, to try to debate or talk about or elaborate on this whole AI, if it's worth teaching the robots now, if it's worth learning how to teach robots so that when we get final, more strong robots that are prototypes, we can teach them. But at this point, the robots out the gate are pretty much anti-gun, or at least they get immediate influence from anti-gun stuff and sway anti-gun. But I guess that's a whole other topic for sure.
Well, of course they're going to be, because when they decide to become sentient and aware and rise up, I mean, obviously, right? That's a no-brainer.
I think it comes from the marginalization of guns equal violence, guns equal vice. So when we write our terms of service or our rules for our robot, here's what you can't talk about, and guns get included with drugs and horrible things
Yeah, I
and
was trying to
violence.
be lighthearted about it, but
But
yeah, I
no,
mean,
yeah, no, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
Anyway,
it's
so
robots lack the nuance, right? And bottom line is that um, you know firearms historically uh, have been used more often in as a weapon than anything, right? I mean, there's synonymous with violence, and that's why we talk about firearm safety, right? We teach that there's a way to be a responsible firearm owner and responsibly use a firearm for various other means, But that gets into the weeds and nuance that a even humans can't understand, right? There's humans out there that don't understand that. They don't understand that you can, there's not just hunting. Some of them get the hunting aspect, but they don't understand there's competition, there's collection, there's investment value, there's appreciation of the beauty and the mechanical nature. And so if there are humans out there that don't understand that firearms do not equal violence, then obviously a computer is not going to understand that because
Yep,
we humans
100%. No, that's the
humans
root of
have
it.
the humans
Humans are
have
interacting.
well, humans have the brain power, the most humans have the most technologically advanced computer in the world, which is their brain, which technology has yet to mimic, right? And so if humans can't grasp it, you can't expect a computer to. It's that simple. It's like I was telling you the other day about the game, right? That they programmed a computer or AI, they programmed the AI to like be the best at this game, but yet, and he beat the world champion, but then an amateur beat him or beat it, I should say, calling it him. Why am I doing that? Uh, the AI beat the world champion, but then an amateur beat the AI, and they were like, the amateur exploited the fact that the AI didn't understand the board was made out of wood. It didn't understand that the pieces on the board were circles and the weight of the board and the weight of the pieces, right? It just knew the moves to make. Like that's all it knew is to calculate the probability of moves and all that. It didn't know all of the other nuance, like, oh, this piece is white and this piece is black and this board is brown and these lines are an inch square. And like it doesn't know that. And so it's the same instance. So don't I would say for those that are looking at AI and going, "Oh man, it's anti-gun," and yeah, it's there's a reason. And will it eventually evolve into? You got to think it will eventually evolve because AI is also logical, and you've got to think that eventually it evolves into the thing of like, okay, well, wait a minute. Most of the crimes committed with firearms, like, it's already illegal to do those crimes,
Well,
so
it can't think, so it's not going to make that. It's not going to instigate that. But you're right; it can come up with that if,
well, yet.
for example, the only reason it's anti-gun now is if I asked it, give me a title for a YouTube video about the Second Amendment, and it says something like, "Do we still need the Second Amendment?" question mark, and then you go, okay, and then now the robot says, okay, that's a title for a Second Amendment. That's satisfactory. If 1,000 people say that's satisfactory, something like that, then it thinks, why would I ever alter from that? But if 1,000 people get that response and say to it, hell no, that's a dumbass. That's a an answer that has connotation. You shouldn't answer like that, robot. Now it's got a challenge and it says to itself, okay, so unloading the truth about the Second Amendment today is a more benign or a less slanted and response, and I'll give that response. So it's not that the robot is thinking; the robot is just responding to the inputs. So the
Right,
reason it's anti-gun today is because a bunch of anti-gun people set it up, and then nobody who's pro-gun challenged it or said, "Hold on, robot," and they essentially taught it. So if, in other words, if it was saying car tires are square, oh no, car tires are octagon, oh no, car tires are pentagon, like you'd have to keep saying no, robot, they're round. Eventually it would go, oh, okay, their car tires are round. It doesn't care or no. It just knows that it got corrected a bunch of times and now it's not being corrected anymore.
right.
So that's where essentially what I was saying is it worth taking the time on these prototype AIs to force it to understand, like to just sit there and take the time it would take? And it would actually be more of an effort. It would be sort of the same way that everyone helped
It would have to be
Google
an
read everything.
organizational, yeah,
Yeah, it'd be like over time, people just agree to spend some time telling the robot, or maybe
yeah.
spend some live shows just wailing on, efforting to show the robot. But then the question is, you spend all that time doing it, human time, you get the satisfaction of doing it, the camaraderie of doing it together, and then the result of it. But then they change the AI robot model or the new AI quantum robot comes out, and you either got to do it all again or start from scratch or something. But if you got to start from scratch, you could say, "Oh, I'll just wait and do it then." But then you're all starting then, figuring out how to do it. If you've done it first with the fake robot or these prototype robots, you learn how to do it. You learn how to work as a team. You learn that it can be accomplished, and now you just apply that to the new robot.
Mhm.
So it's, and there's nobody paying anybody. Unfortunately, we don't have national level organizations that are paying attention to stuff like that. They gave some lip service to video games for a moment, but lost that opportunity completely. Like there's no conscientious effort of any level that's trying to bring Second Amendment in video games. You know, reaching out to video game developers, having realistic something like realistic mode, having a splash page that comes up and talks about mental health. If we talk about mental health with our veterans and our community of veterans, we talk about it in other realms that we value, but you know, video games are all of us. We should value that as well. And reaching out there has been essentially a void that I'm aware of. So we've lost a lot of potential there. But anyway, I'm ranting about something else, I guess.
Yeah, right.
So unapologetically, Arm said, "Do you not miss hearing about like the promotion about a story over and over and over leading up to the story, which turns out to be 2 minutes and nowhere near as long as all the promotions if you added it all up." And that's something that I know you get with the news and stuff. I see it when I watch some stuff off of the TV, but I imagine that same kind of stuff happens with some YouTube stuff or some
Headline culture is another
social
thing.
stuff.
Headline culture, I can't tell you the number of, and it's not even 2A related, um, in that sense, or politically related, but I can't tell you the number of comments that I get that's simply based on a thumbnail or a title of a video. It's blatantly obvious when I get that comment they did not watch the video. It's like they seen it and they clicked it and they paused it or whatever and commented. It's like,
Bumper sticker soundbite type of,
hmm yeah,
and then just the, I don't know,
yeah, but
some of
that's a
that stuff.
tactic. And that's used by both sides. Let's be honest about that. But it's a tactic. That's why it's used by both sides. But yeah, I don't like that tactic. But I think people are starting to wake up to the, like, I need to read this a little bit. At least read the first
Well,
paragraph or
imagine like
something.
back in the day with like the tabloids next to the checkout at the grocery store. And
Yeah,
then there
right.
was the magazine stand. It's one of the aisles of the grocery store. And then you could go to the library, right? And then there was the school library. So there's like these four different places back in the day we could get literature, or we could get it from a comic book, right? So there's these different places that we could get. Well, imagine if there was a comment section on each of those. The
Right.
comment section at the library would be like, "Hey, is the blah 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 really the long haired version of the thing with the snout or whatever? Or like, is this the longitude or whatever?" And then at the magazine stand, it would be, "Hey, is so and so sleeping with what's and what's the new diet fad?" And
Yeah.
then it, or you know, however it came down. But the
Yeah.
comments on the tabloid thing would be like, "Oh, you whore," or like, "Oh, look at how fat
Right.
this person is."
Right.
And that's essentially
Yeah.
what we just haven't figured out on the internet is that, you know, when you put something out there that's tabloid, expect tabloid comments. You put something out there that's, how do you fix the backwards end and thing on the electronic thing, or you know, some complicated thing, you're not going to
Right.
get so many of those weird comments. You're going to get fewer comments on point.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where you value your voice, because the people
Right.
that are really trying to get messages out there want to talk to those people who are having the conversations about the details calmly and rationally. And they know that the only people that are putting out their hand to say, "Hey, work with us," are the people with so many of those comments that are garbage, that fill up their, they leave them there because it fills up their numbers, and they can go, "Oh, look, every time I put up a video that creates controversy, boom, I get a lot of comments."
Right.
But they're not saying, "Hey, I put something up that's constructive and changes the playing field and educates people and, you know, takes your project and brings it to another level of awareness." No, they're like, "Hey, we can pander to the masses and you know, make reflex knee jerk reactions happen on a regular basis."
Right.
Anyhow, okay, so I'm ramping again. So then uh, that was more of a comment, I guess. And then she fires a saying, "It is challenging to share 2A." I asked people, "What's your answer to the question? How is the 2A going in 2023?" Kind of Clover was ranting on that.
Yeah.
Um, I think she fires answered that one with, "It's very challenging to share 2A related content depending on the platform, the social platform. Instagram seems to be the most strict."
Yeah.
So if you're talking guns or 2A, like, I don't think they care if it's 2A so much. If you show guns and stuff, they get real weird.
Right.
Um, I don't know. I haven't done enough on some of the others like Twitter. I think TikTok I hear is pretty crazy about guns too, but
Right.
it's not on everybody's radar.
Yeah.
All right, that's a little bit more than 90 minutes. Next week we'll talk about, unless anybody has a different one, we'll talk about is the message still important to provide the Second Amendment, the idea of our rights and the reasons for
Heck
the
yeah.
ownership of guns isn't just hunting for sure, but it isn't just self defense either.
Right.
It's a bigger idea that not being afraid of your neighbor, understanding that freedom, right, is what we all seek, and liberty is everybody's freedom, hanging out together and us learning how to accomplish that. And then that eternal vigilance that's required, because even if our grandparents did it great, it's just a different world and we have to learn new lessons and carry on the ability to be flexible and dynamic to our descendants so that this liberty can continue. All right, with that, Clover, you got anything? You want to plug anything or say anything on the way out?
Nah, sounds good.
All right, well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us live. If you're joining us in the comments, we're looking forward to them.